got to be smart
Right.
with where you want to squeeze this in. Don't have mental boundaries that say, oh, I got to run at 6 o'clock. I got to run with a Garmin. I got to run with with other people from my club.
Yeah.
I got to run this course. I can't run in traffic. I can't run in heat. None of that.
Right.
Break the boundaries. You can't get to the finish line if you don't get to the start line, right? You can have all kinds of fantasies in life, but if you don't get off your bed at 6 a.m. and do that training then that is required for you to do, you will never get there. It's the small incremental things that will get you to the start line, and once you get to the start line, only then you have a chance to get to the finish line, right? The mindset is, see, I'm 16 hours into the event. I probably finished 140 kilometers, but let me not get ahead of myself.
Right.
Remember that injury?
Yeah.
It is still hovering there.
Yes.
Okay, anything can happen. So I only have visibility into the next, say, 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So let's push another 30 minutes, then another 30 minutes, then another 30 minutes, and it just kept going on. And I passed 200k mark with about, I think, 20 minutes left into that run.
Man.
I came second.
Yeah.
202 kilometers.
Oh.
It was magical.
Awesome.
That miracle
Yeah.
that Arun told me.
Yeah.
Happened.
I am Venky, and this is the Working Athlete Podcast. Here, I talk to working athletes from all walks of life and experts from various sports to provide you with inspiration, training tips, time management, and lifestyle advice. If this is something that interests you, please make sure you subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss any future episodes. Today's guest has been a runner for the last 16 years, running marathons and ultra marathons. He has participated in over 25 marathons and 20 ultra marathons, along with many short runs. He has numerous top finishes at distances from marathons, 12-hour runs, and 24-hour events. With a personal best of 202 kilometers for 24 hours, he has been a member of the Indian team for ultra running, representing India in Asian and Oceanic Championships in Taiwan in 2018. He does all this while balancing raising a young family and doing well as a mid-level manager in a fast-growing tech company. His name is Manoj Bhat. Welcome to the Working Athlete Podcast, Manoj. It is great to have you on the show.
Thanks, Venky. My pleasure, really. Considering the kind of athletes that you have been talking to, I truly honor. It's a big privilege. Thanks so much.
Awesome. So, Manoj, let's talk. Let's start the session by talking a little bit about how your typical workday looks like. Maybe.
Yeah. It's difficult to kind of put it into one kind of a bucket, but I'll make an attempt. So my workday usually doesn't start until, say, I usually log in at about, say, 8 a.m. or so. I mean, we're talking about COVID times, and my last two, I made a job change during COVID time. So and for the last, I was telling my daughter the other day that since she was born, which was 8 years back, I have always somehow been lucky that I have had jobs which allowed me to work from home. So the first 4 years of that was in a company called Entity Data, where I again had US clients to work with, so my mornings were relatively free. I made a job change about 2.5 years back, back to Wipro. There again, for for about 3 months, I had to get to work every day, which was Sarjapur Road. And like most of us crazy guys, I used to cycle to work.
Nice.
I used to bike to work, and bike back, of course, 24 kilometers one way.
Yeah.
But that was getting a little too hectic. And then COVID happened. I shouldn't say luckily, but which still allowed me to continue to work from home again. Now I'm in a company which doesn't have an office in India.
Okay.
Right. So we don't have an office. Even if I want to go to even if I want to go to an office, we don't have one. So which means I'm working from home. And almost all my career I have been working with clients in Europe and US, which means that my workday typically starts 11, 12ish in the noon, and then so I get some time in the morning for myself, which is good. And typically there are meetings scheduled, say from 1 o'clock onwards till about sometimes even up to about 10 p.m. in the night.
Right.
With the meetings can be 30 minutes, an hour, with clients. Sometimes internal meetings. That could be prep meetings. Sometimes that could be company all hands. Like yesterday, I had one going on till 9:30, which is my company all hands. I get a breather in between, maybe about 30 minutes or sometimes 1 hour in between those meetings. But of course, meetings are one thing, but you also have to kind of make sure that you capture the notes and you're communicating internally within your organization, trying to figure out where the action items are, a whole lot of those kind of stuff. So I would say, that's how my typical workday looks. I sometimes, a lot of sitting. I sometimes take meetings when I'm standing up, just to avoid the you know the stress. I think I stress more when I sit than when I'm standing.
Yeah.
So I kind of break that a bit on some meetings when I can. I tend to move about mostly to the kitchen these days, since I'm working from home. But that's how it is. I mean, there's not too much of time. I don't have to log in specific number of hours, thankfully. But invariably, meetings go on till about 9, 10. I've kind of drawn a line now and said I can't take meetings after 10 p.m.
Right.
But I'm a morning person. I really like to work in the morning, or do my um, highly cognitive, demanding tasks in the morning. But sadly, my work is kind of not aligned. I do run quite regularly, as you can imagine. So my runs are, I wake up at 5:30 if I've got enough sleep, that is. And then finish my runs by 8 a.m. Spend some time with my kids, essentially getting them ready to their online classes and all of that. So that's how the typical day looks. Work day, it's quite sometimes stressful. Sometimes I can't sleep after I've shut down, or for an hour, because of all this thing that keeps playing in your head.
Right. It's not like your meetings are over and you shut down at 10:30, but it's not that easy to kind of shut down that mind, right? It keeps going. And
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, and on some days it's really more difficult than others, especially if you have got some kind of a critical feedback, or if there's something that didn't go your way. I mean, work is challenging. Let's be honest. It's not a cakewalk.
Right.
So you do get those critical feedback, and it keeps playing in your head for much longer after 10 p.m. when you shut down. And it takes a while to kind of be restful. In a sense.
Right. But that your running kind of helps, I guess, to in the morning to just de-stress and get ready for that new day.
Absolutely. And running is deeply meditative for me. And in fact, if I were to so what I do is I try and cheat my brain. If I were to, as I'm lying down and trying to go to sleep, and the sleep doesn't come, one of the things that I tend to do is to try and think of my running.
Oh, okay.
Right. Even as I'm lying down, if I'm just thinking about how, and we've done it so many times. I mean, there are places that you're familiar with, etc. Right. So you kind of picture yourself doing that. Right. You're kind of outdoors. You're kind of, you can feel your breathing. You start relaxing automatically.
Right.
I think it works brilliantly for me. I mean, thankfully I don't have too much of trouble falling asleep, but like I said, I mean, this is a good trick.
Yeah. That's very good. So, but how did running come into your life, and when did it all start?
Yeah, so it's quite an interesting story. I mean, I was never, so when I was growing up, it was not as if I was into any kind of sport, right? So we played some local football with in a playground near school. I joke about this, but in high school, I was studying in Purna Pragya in Sadashinagar.
Mm-hmm.
So we had a ground in front of our school. I had a tenant of mine who dropped me to school every morning. So
Right.
but he would drop me like 30 minutes before assembly, right? So I would do this. We used to have this thing called hand tennis, right? So we used to play with the tennis ball. We used to play hand tennis.
Right.
It was quite a intense game.
Yeah.
But sadly, what would happen is invariably your shoes would be muddy,
Uh-huh.
right, or dirty. Especially, my father was
Sandy
reminding me the other
grounds,
day.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, sandy grounds and canvas shoes.
Yeah.
And remember those kiwi polish that we used to get?
Right.
It's all brown in no time, right?
Yeah.
And then when we get into assembly, I would get pulled up because my shoes are dirty.
Right.
So after a point, I'm like, okay, so I'm going to get caught every day.
Yeah.
I can't stop my hand tennis.
Right.
So what's the punishment? The punishment used to be run one round around the school ground, and then join the line back. So if you're late, the teacher knows that your shoes are dirty and you've been doing this all the time. So you better be a little fast.
Right.
So I started doing that. So even before they pull me out, I'm already gone. And then I finish my round. I'm like, okay, it doesn't, after a point, it didn't feel like a punishment, right? Then when I finished college and all of that, and in college I used to, I started working out because I was small and puny. I wanted to kind of put on some muscles. I actually did. What you see is half size right now.
After all the running.
After all of the running.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So there we had a coach in BL gym, again, much bigger ground. But we had a coach called Matthew Sir who was coaching for the Paralympic Indian team. Okay, and one of the things that he would say whenever he sees anyone come into the gym, the first thing he would be like, okay, where's the sweat? Right, you got to be sweating before you come into the gym. That was his mantra.
That is warm up.
That is
properly
warm
warm
up.
up.
Right? Yeah. I mean, you kind of make those cheat rules, right?
Right.
I mean, no talking in the gym, maintain a log. He thought all the right things, and that meant that you did one round around BL ground and got back. So that kind of stuck with me even when I went to IIM Lucknow, where we had a great gym. I used to spend some time there. But the rounds just got bigger. The round around campus there was 2.5 kilometers. Right. So you did 2.5 kilometers before you came into the gym. It didn't feel like you did it every day. It didn't feel like much.
Right.
So without even knowing that I was actually running, there was some running that was going on.
Right.
And to finish off my college, a friend and I, we decided to do 10 rounds around campus. Okay, 25 kilometers, not even knowing people do it for warm up.
Right.
Or it's a sport.
Yeah.
A 25-kilometer run can be a sport. We never knew.
Yeah.
So first attempt was 5 rounds, and then we picked up the cycle and did 5 more rounds just to see, okay, I'm not going to faint, and I'll be all right. Then 2 weeks later, we again attempted, and this time we actually did 10 rounds. The 10th round, we took off our shirts, ran around shouting like madmen, all kinds of crazy stuff.
Yeah.
And that finished my college 2005. I came to relocated back to Bangalore, and that's when Lipton Bangalore Marathon was announced. The first Bangalore Marathon in 2005, Lipton Bangalore Marathon, with categories of 21 kilometers and 42 kilometers. 21 I had already done.
Right.
So I said, what's the point?
Right.
So I had already done 25.
Yeah.
So let's sign up for 42, right? So signed up for 42 without even knowing what it meant. Back then, people said, "Oh, you're doing 42. You must have a lot of stamina, right?"
Right.
We call it endurance and all of that, aerobic capacity and all of that these days. But those days it was stamina.
Right.
And how do you test your stamina? So a week before that, I cycled to Nandi Hills, not even knowing what the distance was.
Right.
Because I could see that hill from my
back
from
in
my house.
2005.
2005.
Yeah.
Yeah, cycle to Nandi Hills. I remember, we can probably digress a bit, but it was funny. Somewhere I think in that.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about cycling that to Nandi Hills. I am you're very
biased,
interested.
Right? Yeah, but funnily enough, I'll tell you. Okay, so let's just wind this story up, and then I'll come back to the cycling thing. So that's how the running story really started.
Correct.
So I struggled and suffered during that marathon, of course. First marathon, we just wanted to finish. I eventually finished in 6 hours and 5 minutes.
Right.
For my first 42 kilometer. When I finished, they were bringing all the shamiyan down, and there was no finish line,
Right.
etc. I had to tell my timing so that someone could write it on my certificate. They said come back a week later for your medal because you have packed it all up.
Already packed it up. Yeah.
Right. So it was quite funny. The traffic, of course, like today they don't care. So we did a lot of the last leg of running on the footpath. But yeah, I mean, it was a great experience, and thankfully, running came into my life from then on. And
So it kind of got in from as a punishment at school ground, and then kind of as a warm up for gym,
yeah,
and then continued in when you were in IIM in college and stuff, and kind of slowly, gradually, it kind of became part of that
exactly.
life.
And then and then I started running was much more objective for me, right, than say working out was,
Right.
because I'd put on some amount of muscle. There is only that 13-inch bicep will grow up by another
Or few
few centimeters here and there. But if that is your metric for measuring your success or progress, it was not giving me that kind of excitement. Whereas with running, I started getting a very great correlation. The amount of time that you put into running is what started showing up in the results, right? So it was very objective, unlike a lot of things in life, right? If you say, okay, I'm going to put in say 2 hours more into my into my 10-hour work day, is it going to give me 20% more salary? I'm sorry, many things in life are not that objective. But for me, for running, and as far as running was concerned, I started seeing the results.
You were getting faster.
Which is proportional to the hard work I was putting.
Right.
So the more work I put into my running, the more results start showing, right? And that to me, started getting me, into staying in.
Right.
Plus the opportunity to meet a whole lot of people. Right. At that point, I also joined. I also was introduced by So this is how it happened. First job, IBM. We are there in training. There is this senior partner who was there in IBM consulting. His name was Ramesh. Ramesh Srinivas. He still runs, and he's still a great friend. So he said, to a group of all of us who had passed out of B schools, and we are there in IBM consulting in the training. So he said, okay, guys, show of hands. How many of you are running the Lipton Bangalore marathon 2 weeks later? Right. And there were only a few of us who, maybe three of us out of a group of 50 hands went up. So then we were talking after, and it turned out that he was running Singapore marathon that year, and all of that, all some great stuff. At I don't know, at 40 plus, I think, he was doing all of this, and I was like really amazed. And then he said, you should, hey Bhagar, you should. This is exactly how he put it. Hey Bhagar, you should check out this group. It's called the Hash something. There are a bunch of expats mostly. They run in some trails, but you should go and check them out. They're, it's kind of weird, but yeah, I mean, I said, yeah, sure. So then I looked up on on internet. I think it was Ask Jeeves or something. Then Google wasn't around. But yeah, and I found a web page. Then I saw what they're doing for the next run. So I landed up there. Back then, there were instructions. Unlike the Google Maps that I used to get here, there were written instructions. They would say, turn right after HP petrol bunk, go 300 meters, put your odometer to 0 at Hebal Esteem flyover. Right. Stuff like that. So instructions used to be very, very detailed and clear. So I followed instructions, and then I landed up there. They run in the trails. So the Bangalore Hash, it's called the Bangalore Hash House Harriers. It's a group. It's a worldwide group. Bangalore's chapter is called the BH3. There are chapters all over the country, all over the world. Right. But what is common is that they all run trails. Right. So there is someone who lay a trail before the start of the run. Say in the morning. The runs are in the evening. Sometimes in the morning nowadays. But and with chalk and flour. Okay. So you got to.
They used to mark the trail with chalk and flour.
Okay. Right. So you got to kind of follow the trail. There are false trails and all kinds of craziness. Right. And then you find all of that, and then you get back. Right. This is typically about anywhere from 8 to 10, 12 kilometers, whatever that distance, it doesn't matter. Right. So about an hour and a half, then you get back to wherever you started from, typically. And then there is some singing, and then there is beer and all of that after the run,
Right.
and you are refreshed and you get back, right?
Right.
So that used to be the format. It happens once every fortnight,
Hmm.
and every time in a different trail.
Hmm.
For me, that was like unbelievable. I
Right.
mean, you're getting to meet people, you're getting to see some beautiful trails, you're
Right.
getting to run, you're getting to have your beer after,
Right.
right? I mean, life can't be any better than that, right?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
that on a Sunday evening, Sunday whatever. So
Yeah.
so for me, when I go to that run, it's like I leave my brain behind
Hmm.
at home,
Yeah.
go there, finish the run, completely refreshed and recharged for what's going to come for the week.
Right. These
You know?
runs used to be weekend runs mostly, or
Sunday
weekend?
Sunday
Sunday.
runs,
Sunday
Sunday
runs.
evening runs. Yeah.
Perfect. Perfect.
So thankfully, the Bangalore Hash House Harriers is still around.
Hmm.
You can still go on Google and look them up.
Wow.
Now I take my kids
Hmm.
to those trails.
Right.
We are doing one tomorrow as well.
Awesome.
Somewhere 70 kilometers off. So the only thing that has happened now is earlier it used to be a 30-kilometer ride. Now because Bangalore has grown, it's in the 70-kilometer
Right.
ride.
Urbanization,
Yeah.
a lot of
No, the
apartments.
trails.
Yeah.
The trails,
Trails
right?
kind of
So I could imagine 10
moved
years
out.
back, 15 years back, this could have been a good place for a trail
Yeah.
run, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But look at what's happened now. There's no trails left anymore.
Correct.
So that therefore we got to kind of move a little out and out.
Hmm.
But the fun, the trails, the enjoyment, the runs, the beer, all of that remains.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
only a little extra that you got to do in order to make it happen. But then,
Right.
yeah, I'm glad it's still around, and I'm still introducing my kids to the outdoors now a bit. So,
Oh, perfect.
yeah,
Perfect. That should be fun. But you are also like, this is like Sunday runs, but and you have done Lipton Marathon around that time, 2005, being introduced to that by your manager at work and stuff. Then how, apart from this Sunday run, what kind of training went into that first marathon as such?
yeah. I mean, it's quite interesting.
Hmm.
I didn't know that one has to train for a marathon.
Right.
Okay, so
Yeah.
let's start from there, right?
It's all running has
Yeah.
been warm up to gym
Yeah,
and other stuff
and
till now.
see, to be honest, I never thought that that you got to kind of train for an event like that.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that was point one. So as we were running, I still remember as we were running somewhere near Makery Circle, between Makery Circle and Ganganagar, right around that stretch.
Hmm.
On that day when I was doing the Lipton Marathon, there was some, there was some tour, there was a group of, of 8-10 people who were running together. So it was just, they were just talking and all of that. And, I also kind of joined them and I was just listening in. That's when I met Arvind Krishnan, right? Who had started Runners for Life.
Right.
And Runners for A1 as
A1.
we call him.
Yeah.
A1 and A2, both of them were there, and they were handing out these like bookmarks kind of thing with Runners for Life and this kind of thing written and all of that. So I got curious. I asked them. They said, yeah, they train. They do their runs in Cubbon Park, every weekend. And I got like, okay. Then I was like, okay, fine. I came back. I finished all the run and all that, and came back. And I was like, but why would I go, like 10 kilometers to run 5, on my bike,
Right.
and run 5 kilometers? I
Right.
might as well run 5 kilometers here if I
Yeah.
want to.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But regardless, I started joining them on their runs. I started getting, started meeting more people, started, enjoying it much more. And then was introduced to this whole idea that you got to train, and slowly build up mileage.
Right.
A few years later, I think I that year or the year after, 2000, 2007 is when we had the Bangalore Ultra, the first Bangalore Ultra that happened. So by then I had done some few marathons and I was, at least mentally ready to do more. There's nothing like mentally ready back then, but you train because there are a whole lot of people who are training. We had a great runner called Madhu Avasarala who had come down from the US, and he was kind of I think he was on like a break or something in India. So he was spending some time in India. He was the race director for the first Bangalore Ultra.
Okay.
And he got a few of us together to train together, right? In terms of saying, oh, then I got introduced, and then there was Dr. Rajat Chauhan, who was also in Bangalore, who was also an ultra runner. He was the first 3 hour, 20-minute runner that I ever knew. A few of us started running together, understanding what training means, what back-to-back long runs are, what tempo runs are. Someone introduced us to Runner's World, some physical editions,
Right.
right, of Runner's World. I started reading those magazines.
Magazines were a thing.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So a lot of this, there was Bhaskar Sharma, there was A2, there was Jaggi and Sunil, and whole lot of good uh, veterans,
Right.
who were there, who had run for almost all their lifetime.
Right.
These were from an age profile perspective, I don't think any of us were under 40. I mean, at least, I was under 40, of course,
Right.
but a whole lot of these guys who knew a lot about running were in that kind of age category.
Right.
But they were amazing runners. When you looked at say Pankaj Rai, for example, in his 40s, you would never say he's 40. He looked 25.
Yeah.
So that is the kind of those are the kind of people that you started meeting, you started talking, you started understanding the concept of training, and that's how it slowly, then you started writing a program, a training program. Then you started spending 16 weeks as you started getting better and better, and that went all the way. I think that curve from about 2005 to about 2010 at least, right? Were the initial periods where you were still trying to figure out what this whole puzzle is.
Yeah.
Right?
What is this training is for the events?
Correct. Exactly.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So how did the kind of like you said, running has been very objective in the sense of the returns that you saw. So what kind of improvements did you see, say, from 6 hours marathon to say from in your first marathon where they wind up everything by the time you finish to, let's say, in 2010 kind of thing?
Yeah. So that's another what should I say? So from 6 hour 5 minutes, I have now my personal best is 3 hours and 20 minutes.
Wow.
Right. So I'm very, very tempted to train for a 3 hour 10 minute. So I've actually done a 3 hour 15-minute marathon timing, although it's not official, because it was a part of a 6 hour run. So in a 6 hour run, I finished the marathon in 3:16, and then I've gone on to complete 6 hours. So but nevertheless, the important thing is that the initial gains came very rapidly. Right?
Very understandable.
Right?
Yeah.
6:05, the next one was 5:30.
Yeah.
And then a 5:15.
Yeah.
And then and then a 4:40 and so on. So the initial and back then, it is not like now, right? So now you have a marathon that's happening, at least in Bangalore, or if you count the country, there are probably 40 marathons.
Quite a few
right?
now.
Yeah. Back then there were a handful of them.
Yeah.
Right. The biggest one, of course, the one that was still, the biggest one was Mumbai, of course. Bangalore had, I think for 2 years we had that marathon, and then it went off because there were no sponsors.
Right.
Then it came back again because RFL, started doing something. Then there was KTM that was happening. Quite a few of these, that Kaveri Trail Marathon.
Yeah.
There were handful.
That's again Runners for Life event, KTM. Yeah.
Then there was a Hyderabad Marathon which started up, by about that time. Pondicherry in Auroville. They used to conduct a Auroville Marathon, which was really beautiful.
Right.
So we had this, and Bhukamp, which is the group that I'm a part of, which started kind of shaping up back then. Actually stands for, I don't know if people know, BHUKMP is Bangalore. H for Hyderabad, U for Ultra, which is the Bangalore Ultra. K is for Kaveri Trail Marathon, M is Mumbai, and P is Pondicherry.
Wow.
Bhukamp is actually BHUKMP.
Because these are the events that you guys were training for.
That we were participating for.
Yeah.
Right? So, and this idea of calling it Bhukamp also came during a run.
Right.
Which is called Dandi. I mean, the most popular run that Bhukamp used to run was called Dandi. And Dandi was essentially a run that's from your home. Right? Every Sunday, there is a course that starts from Kormangla all the way to Kaban Park, and from Kaban Park towards Yeshwanthpur, and then you have one loop that goes around Malleshwaram, etc., and you finish in Kaban Park. And then there's a sumptuous breakfast that we all hog. But the route is constant. The start time is constant. The pace is more or less constant, which means that if my house is in Bangalore, for example, I know at 6:15 Dandi will pass there.
Right.
Okay, so by about 6:10 to 6:20, if I'm hanging around in that area,
Warming up or something,
one
you'll
group will pass, and then you just join them, right?
Right.
And you get your 30 kilometers for the day,
Awesome.
right?
Yeah.
So that used to be Dandi every Sunday, right? Every Sunday, that used to be the concept, and no one. It was not as if you had to ping and tell, oh, I'm starting. Nothing. You rest assured, Dandi is going to be there at 6:15 at Bangalore.
Awesome.
Right?
Yeah.
At 6:42 at 6:40 to 6:45 at Kavan Park for a picture.
Yeah.
From 6:45 onwards on the second leg of Dandi, which is to Yeshwanthpur and back to Kavan. So there are people who would just come to Kavan by 6:45 and start and do that smaller load.
Right.
There are people who come from there. All kinds of things would happen. But yeah, essentially that was Dandi. That was Bukam. So the point being, we had only about say 5 or 6 marathons.
Correct.
Right? And it is, it sometimes surprises me, when I see so many people complaining about conditions and courses and water stops and this and that. Nothing. I mean, with zero expectations, you go into these runs. Hyderabad marathon was like this brutal uphills on that. But you
1,000 flyovers or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, you went, you enjoyed, and hung around with friends. Sometimes we traveled by trains. Made a lot of masti when we were doing that. A whole lot of stuff. Right. We explored carb loading to an extent that you couldn't run the next morning. To having your beers after. A whole lot of good amount of fun.
Right.
But what was also important was, because I think I started as a slow runner, and then I progressively started improving. And even there you kind of hit a plateau, and then suddenly you will see you'll suddenly break
out of that plateau. Yeah.
So sub 4, for example, was like a big deal for me. I got to a lot of 401s and 405s and 407s, without getting anywhere below 4, titillatingly close, but never happened.
Right.
So I remember once in Auroville I did 403 or something, and then I was sitting there and I was sulking. I was really like crying and all of that. And then Santosh Padmanabhan, right, with all his, he's the monk who runs, right? He's found peace with his running and with everything else in his life. So he came and looked at me. Hey, what happened? Some injury? No, Santosh, 403, Santosh. And he he didn't have words. I mean, like 403 is such an amazing time, and why do you have to feel so bad about the 3 minutes? I mean, don't worry about it at all, and this and that and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But and then I remember I went to Hyderabad, I think maybe 6 months later or whatever, and we were given the dorm in the stadium. We were, they got us in an elite bus, kind of a thing. They sent a bus for us. Like they treat elites, right? So we were given a dorm, the Bukam guys coming from Bangalore. And then we were in the dorm, and I was speaking to this guy called Nari, and he was saying, and I was telling him, that I want to do this sub 4 and all that. And then he looked at me and I said, nothing matters, all your planning and all of that. It only depends on how badly you want it.
Right.
He just said that, and I was like, man, you shouldn't have told me this.
Yeah.
Right? Because now suddenly, the onus is not on your training, it is on you on that race day. Do you really want to, go that distance?
How badly you want it.
How badly you want it, right? And then, that day it happened. The next day I did a 350. And I came third in that marathon. The first time I got a prize money. Yeah, I got a prize money.
Nice.
For that effort.
So 350, yeah?
Yeah, I did a 350.
So 13 minutes straight off.
Yeah, 13 minutes.
And it's Hyderabad course is not easy,
it's tough. Yeah, it's a tough course. And I was flying.
Wow.
And I was flying. I remember there was this downhill that is there in front of ISB. So there's this long uphill, and then there is like this 1.5 kilometer type downhill. Okay? So it's just, on that downhill, I was like belting it. I was flying. I passed, I think, some two army guys, in that stretch. Who looked like, really strong, and they were struggling. But I was like on a song.
You really wanted it badly, I guess.
No, I was just kicking. That day was like unbelievable.
Right.
So, and then we had to get into that university and finish and all of that. Absolutely no problems, whatever and whatsoever, and it was unbelievable. So, and things like that. And from there on, of course, you came to a 330, and then your 320 happened a few times, and so that's really, I mean, and even now I believe that running is is in direct proportion to what you can put in, what you can give it.
Right.
There is nothing else in life, that gives you, how much you invest into it.
Right. But also there is that, like you mentioned, right? Initially, the gains will be like very,
Exactly.
very much. You can see them like
Yeah.
the gains will be huge. But then as you go on, maybe that will
It'll
be
plateau.
the kind of plateau, and you have to put that much more to kind of see smaller, smaller
Yeah.
grains.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's incredible.
But define your success,
Hmm.
right? You got to kind of define your success.
Right.
While timing is one thing,
Hmm.
is a good metric.
Right.
It's really there. You can look at your watch and you can say.
Yeah. Yeah.
But success is also can also be other things,
Right.
right? To a lot of people, success is the ability to be fit,
Hmm.
right, through the year.
Right.
Ability to complete a marathon is can be success.
Right.
Do a age, add the age factor to it. And there are plenty of calculations that are there,
Right.
which say if you run your marathon in 4 hours when you're 25, what is it that you should be looking at realistically when you're 30? Right.
Yeah.
And that age graded timing could probably say that you should be at 405 is good. And 405, if you're able to maintain that when you're 30, I would still call that a success.
Right.
So your graph need not essentially be one dimensional. Add your other dimensions that are there. When a person like me is talking about it with 16 years plus of running, right, and not counting the punishment years, of course.
Yeah. Right.
This is from the time that I started running a marathon.
Correct.
When you start looking at a time frame like that, it is kind of important to set yourself goals that can keep you going for that long.
Right.
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 Otherwise, it can just be a tick in the box, a bucket list item, and then you have ticked it off, and that's it.
That's it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But running, to me, especially long distance running, is also long, not just in the time that you run, but also in look at it from a lifetime. Right. It is something that you would probably do for like 40 years if you are hungry enough.
Right.
Right.
It is a lifestyle, right? It is something that you want to do.
It's such an easy thing to do.
Right.
I mean, I'm not taking anything away from you bikers.
Right.
But look at the kind of equipment that you need for running versus what you need for
Absolutely,
biking.
man. Absolutely. Right? See, there is no disagreement there. I started out my fitness journey through badminton, and then
so I got someone converted.
No. There is no converting here, because I started out with badminton and running to get better at badminton and losing weight.
Yeah.
Jogging, running, I don't know if my pace was good enough to be called running as such, but I used to go out, jog. My sister's place used to be like 5 kilometers from my place. I used to go run there and have something and say hi and run back.
Right.
So it used to be like 10-kilometer
Awesome.
run in the morning. And that was like my preparation for my whatever fitness program as part of my badminton. So I was on a weight loss journey at that time.
Right.
And then like I continued to run to in preparation for my first marathon. I happened to move to US for a year, and I was training for my first marathon there. And I ran. I thought I was gradually ramping it up. Anyway, I didn't know enough to actually do it properly, but I ended up doing my first half marathon distance, and I was so elated. You call that runner's high, right?
Yeah.
It was precisely that. I had that runner's high. I was like really high. I came home, sat in front of my computer, and wrote a poem.
Wow.
On that, how it was.
Awesome.
That high. So I still have that on my blog. I'll
Awesome.
put it up. But that kind of thing was really. It
Yeah.
was really high, I think. And after a couple of those long runs, leading up to my marathon, I ended up injuring my left ITV, and I tried to kind of start, give it rest, roll and all that, and start back. It never happened. So my marathon, it didn't happen.
Not yet.
So no, I don't know. I'm not going back, I guess. But every time I try to get back to running, like I did try getting back during the first pandemic, first wave of pandemic, and as soon as I somehow go beyond 10K and 10 milers, I think it kind of somehow gets flared up. And one good thing that it has done is it has shown me that there are a lot of imbalances in my body that I need to work on. So that's kind of gave me an impetus to get back to serious kind of weight training and yoga and stuff like that. So running for me has been kind of symbolized by my injuries, but also kind of give me wake up calls as to say that you need to focus on your overall strength and stuff.
So I have a related story, and which I would like to share. So I was telling you about this gym that I used to go to in BL ground, and all of that, right? So let's just stick with that era for a minute. So one of the things that we used to do on Sundays was play football, right? So in BL ground, we used to play football, and imagine all of those hefty, gym, gym
bodies,
right? Gym bodies come there and and take the shit out on the football, right? Now imagine that my leg is very loosely dangling in front of one of those kicks. I was a defender, because I didn't have the skill to be in attack, and I loosely put my leg in front of one of those balls to defend, and I had a twist.
Ooh.
Right. So I had an ACL. On my left leg. I had the twist, and I didn't know what it is back then. I was in excruciating pain. I was just lying down there. I got up, went and sat down for a few minutes. After about 10-15 minutes, I got back on, and then I was trying to, the ball was at a distance. I'm trying to run towards the ball, and I suddenly buckle and fall. Right. So this buckling is a very strong indicator of ACL tear.
Right.
So then I went to the doctor because the pain was really hard, and this was, I think, in 2002. The doctor looked at it and said, "Look, we can do an MRI to understand what is happening, but I know for sure that this is a ACL tear."
ACL.
So figure out what you want to do. I mean, see, it will take about 6 months for you to. Sometimes it will heal by itself. Otherwise, you'll have to do a surgery, which means opening your knee. So let's not go there yet. Let's see if we can fix it. I said, okay, fine. Let me see if I can fix it. I wasn't doing anything special back then. I was hitting the gym anyway. So I said, just strengthen the muscles around it. So I went to my gym coach, and then he wrote me exercises for the legs. I used to do that religiously. 4 years, right? All of this happened. My first marathon was actually from Kandirava Stadium, Hebal right turn to Banaswadi back to Hebal and back to Kandirava, right? Almost that was the course. Okay. Hebal is about 10 kilometers. By the time I got to 10 kilometers, I was already in pain. I was already madly in pain because of that ACL injury. Right. And it would swell up. Right? There would be swelling. In spite of that, I went ahead and finished whatever, right? Because I started this, I have to finish it. Right. So I finished all of that. I did my second marathon also in pain. Right. And then I reached a point where I said, hey, look, I got to kind of fix either this or that. I can't be running and have this injury. Either I stop running or I take care of this. Then I went back to the doctor. In 5 years, science had caught up. Right. So now there was a keyhole surgery with good amount of success, which is 97-98% success rate. Right. So I went and got it operated. I spent 6 months in rehab. And the first day I remember, just bending my knee 5 degrees. So I'm still in hospital. Right. So they put you on this machine. Right. And get you to do 5 degrees of bend with your just 5 degrees. Wow. That 5 degrees was so painful and so much of an effort for me. Right. That I got fever the next day. Wow. Right. To that extent, it was so difficult, because what they did in my case was they took a kneecap, a part of the kneecap, and then they put it into the knee. So essentially, ACL is, it's called anterior cruciate ligament. So the ligaments are like a cross.
Right.
Okay, and that's in between the bone in your knee. So these are your two knee bones. So this ligament goes there. Okay, if you snap that, what happens is that when you're walking, it'll slip like that.
Right.
Which means your upper body and your upper body weight cannot be taken up by your legs, so you'll fall. Okay, so what they did was they took my kneecap and they pushed it in like that and put two screws there. So, to fix it. That's how they did it. Right. And because there was this new body that was there, it was preventing my knee from extending. Right. So that is exactly what was going on. So I had to spend, but the doctor was amazing. He was a sports specialist, etc., etc. So I had my whole 6 months planned out in terms of rehab. I didn't miss a single rehab. I got it back on. In 6 months, I did my first half marathon, which is by far a record. For the doctor Hemant Kalyan, who was treating a lot of sports injuries, was like pleasantly amazed.
Right.
He even wrote an article about me the next year, which came in Outlook and things like that, about how quickly even
You recover from
general
it.
amateurs can recover from surgery.
Yes, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I did that. So that injury is behind me now. So but of course, once in a while it will flare up.
Right.
It happened in my 24-hour run in Chandigarh when I did it in 2019. 2 days before the event, I fell off my cycle. I twisted my leg again, and I knew that that's the pain, because pain has this great pathways in your mind which can't be erased easily.
Right.
Right. That one particular kind of pain from that particular kind of injury, it doesn't go away. Right. That it came back. Actually, it was 3 years before that, a little bit more rewind into when I was biking to work. There was someone who came and rammed me from behind.
Right.
So I fell down
During commute.
And that injury happened again. So I was like supremely depressed. Went back to my doctor. He said, "Look, the damage has already been done. MRI shows there is a tear again. Now there are two things that we can do. We can wait, or we can go for surgery right now. But if I go for surgery right now, your chances are 50%. I can't promise the 97% that you had in the first time, because this is a repeat on the same leg. Right. So the other thing to do is, of course, wait. Right. Because the injury damage is done. Go back. I mean, I think it's more psychological than anything else. He said, go back to your running. Do all the speed work that you're doing. Just give it all. If it becomes worse, if you can't handle it, come back and then we'll fix it. Right. So then I went back like a madman. Right from the next day, started my interval training. I said, okay, let's see who wins this one. Right. And I didn't have to get surgery done. Right. So I was able to kind of strengthen it, and the pain went away after a while. Right. So everything was good until 2 days before my 24-hour run, which I was like completely stressed out. I was preparing 6 months into training with all the pressures of work and family and all of that. And 2 days before the event, I fall down from my cycle and I twisted that same leg. I know the pain. There was no blood, nothing. Some people helped me off and they made me sit on the side of the road. I was sitting there and crying like a baby. Right. They couldn't figure out why. So they came and asked me. I said, forget it, you won't understand. Yeah. Because I know with this pain, I can't do anything. Right. In 2 days' time, there's no way I was running a 24-hour event. Right. But then,
But you did.
Yeah.
But you did run, and that was the 202 kilometers?
Yes.
So how?
Yeah, exactly, right. And if you were to look for
that is your best so far for the
that's my best, and I keep
for the
I
time
use this,
24 hours.
So I give this talk called Mind Over Matter, Mind Over Muscle. Okay, and Mind Over Muscle essentially, and this is like the greatest example of how that can happen. And I strongly believe that you can't get to the finish line if you don't get to the start line, right? You certainly can't.
Absolutely,
finish.
man.
You just can't. You can have all kinds of fantasies in life, but if you don't get off your bed at 6 a.m. and do that training then that is required for you to do, you will never get there. It's the small incremental things that will get you to the start line, and once you get to the start line, only then you have a chance to get to the finish line, right? So for me, all of this, and really, I mean, there was no other race I think I was more psyched about than that event, right? Because and this has happened. I was limping, as I was going through that day. not knowing whether I need to catch that flight to Chandigarh. Does it make sense at all?
Right.
Then finally I said, you know what, I've invested all of this time and effort, money into it. Let me just go.
Right.
So I went to Chandigarh. The previous day, I went to the stadium to collect my bib, and then I met Arun Bharadwaj, who's another great ultra runner that India has seen. So Arun was there, and he said, "Manoj, don't worry, miracles happen." I said, "You must be kidding me. I mean, just look at me, right? And look at my knee. I mean, it's visibly swollen. It is still
Visibly swollen.
swollen.
Yeah. It's not something that some imaginary
No,
psychosomatic injury. Nothing.
No,
It is
real.
real.
It is for real.
Yeah.
Okay?
So it was
And I'm
swollen.
limping.
Right.
I can't walk because
Right.
I can't stretch my leg. I can't stretch the knee like that completely.
Man.
So I'm like this and I'm limping. Okay.
Right.
So, but yeah, I mean, I went there. Then the next day, the run was at 6 p.m. the start. So I have this really compression, 2XU shorts that long,
Right.
that I wear for my 24-hour runs,
Right.
especially when it's cold and stuff like that. So I wore that, and I felt like it gave me some support. I just ran a little, as in shuffled a little in my room diagonally, just to kind of okay, still all right, but yeah, I don't know, right?
Yeah.
So with that kind of a mindset, I went to the stadium. I said, okay, fine, let's. And the beauty of that was there is no expectation, right? I don't know, and forget 200 kilometers, right? I had no clue that I would survive 30 minutes.
Yeah.
But because I was there, because I picked up the bib, because I've ready, I might as well.
Right.
So I started jogging, and 30 minutes into the run, and I was like, body is warmed up, knee pain.
No.
Not really.
I'm not really feeling it.
Yeah, it's not that bad. Let's see how far I can go.
Right.
I was prepared to just give up after 4 hours.
Right.
But then I thought, see, this is not. So then I started connecting the dots, right? Walking extends your knee. Running, there is a micro bend that's there almost all
there.
the time.
Yeah.
So I told myself, look, maybe that's what's happening. If I start to walk, then I'm in trouble. So this is the race where it's like God has told you, boss, I'm going to take away the walking capability from you.
Right.
Okay. Now you figure out what you want to do.
Yeah.
Right. But the capability that you have is a running capability. Okay. So that's when I decided, and that's probably one of those races where I haven't walked till about say 17, 18 hours.
Right.
So I just kept the slow jog going. Right. And I was able to do, I think, about 110 kilometers in the first 12 hours, which was like really good.
Yeah.
And then continued, with that kind of, with that mindset. The mindset is, see, I'm 16 hours into the event. I probably finished 140 kilometers, but let me not get ahead of myself.
Right.
Remember that injury?
Yeah.
It is still hovering there.
Yes.
Okay. Anything can happen. So I only have visibility into the next, say, 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So let's push another 30 minutes, then another 30 minutes, then another 30 minutes, and it just kept going on. And I passed the 200k mark with about, I think, 20 minutes left into that run.
Man.
I came second, finishing 202 kilometers.
Oh.
It was magical.
Awesome.
That miracle
that
Arun told me.
Yeah.
Happened.
No, but that is beautiful, right? This kind of nicely ties into that. You can't get to the finish line unless you get to the start line.
Absolutely.
Right? You knew it was bad, it was swollen and all, but you took that chance to put yourself at the start line.
Yeah.
And then took again that thing, right, breaking that up into the smaller chunks.
Correct.
Not looking at the 24 hours, looking at say 30 minutes at a time, one step at a time, one after the other, and you made it. 202 kilometers of running in 24 hours. Not bad at all. Wow,
that's
man.
Right. And I've never been able to. I've tried a few times after, with much more rigor and much more training, but I've not gotten back there yet. So
it's not.
Really
it's not been that long. It's 2019 is when you did that. So you have all your life ahead of
years,
you. Yeah.
Let's go.
Awesome, man. But how did this thought of from
See,
marathons? How
yeah.
did you get into ultra
Yeah.
stuff?
So there's, like I said, I come from that time when you just ran
Mm,
because there was a distance you had to run.
right.
Period.
Yeah.
I mean, no one told me that this ultra thing is something, that you do after, you become a seasoned marathon or whatever, right?
Yeah.
It was just another distance,
Right.
right?
Right.
So it was just, it was just very automatic. The choice was that you're going to run in the trails
Mm,
for 12 hours.
yeah.
I signed up for 78 hours in the first Bangalore Ultra,
Mm,
and then signed up for 75 and 100 the subsequent year. Um, and you just did that because it was there to be done, right? The hash teaches you a bit of that as well. If there is
yeah.
a hill, you run up that hill. Period. That's it.
Yeah.
There's no other reason why the hill is there. It's on a trail. There is a hill.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what? You put your head down, you run it up, man.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
the hills on the trails are also like
Yeah, some
a
of
lot
them are
of
like
them.
steep.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they're steep, you suffer a little more. If they're less steep, you enjoy it a little more. Whatever, right?
Yeah.
You take your pick, but you don't complain,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Right? You just put your head down and get the job done, right?
Right.
So that's how the ultras happened, and then once you started doing one distance after the other distance, challenging your body,
Mm.
you know. So I think in about 2000. So a little bit of I wanted to kind of talk about this when you spoke about your journey into running.
Right.
You're talking
Right.
about your
Yeah.
training and so
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
So I have to kind of mention this. So in 2008 when 2009 I signed up for my first 100-kilometer run. Okay.
Mm.
So having done 78 kilometers in 2007 in the Bangalore Ultra, 2008 was 75 kilometers.
Mm.
So I said, let me just take a shot at 100.
Right.
So how do you train for 100 kilometers? So I was working in Wipro back then, which was in Sarjapur, and I stay in Hibal.
Mm.
So my sister was very conveniently, when you said sister, that's how the connection came.
Yeah.
She very conveniently was midpoint between my office and home.
Right.
So this was my schedule for 2 months.
Yeah.
So you kind of bear with me for the next
Sure.
30
Sure.
seconds.
Yeah.
So I would drive my car on Monday morning.
Yeah.
And my car would have my bike.
Mm.
It would have my running clothes, my running shoes, my office clothes, right? My office clothes, laptop and all of that. So just like a regular corporate guy, drive to office, park it in the parking lot in the basement, find one nice place.
Yeah.
Because only I know that's going to be there for a week.
Right.
Okay. So in the evening, what I would do is I would change into my running
attire.
gear. Yeah. Pick up my bike, cycle from Sarjapur Road to Shantinagar, where my sister's place was. Leave the bike there, right, and just start running from there till my home, which was 12 kilometers. 12, 13 kilometers.
So office was at about 24.
Office was about 24, 25 kilometers.
Yeah.
So this was like halfway.
Right.
So I go running till my house. So by the time I reach home, it was like 8 p.m. or 8 whatever. So I have a shower, I have my dinner, I sleep, I wake up in the morning, I have my coffee, whatever, and then I start running back to my sister's house, right? Pick up my cycle and
go to the office. Yeah.
Park my cycle there, have a shower, change into corporate.
Change
your hat.
Yeah.
Right. Finish your work and repeat.
Yeah.
So which meant that every day I got in the evening, I got this 13 kilometers bike ride, 12 kilometers run, 12 kilometers in the morning, and the same thing in the evening.
Right.
Right.
So 24
kilometers of
running, 25 kilometer, 26 kilometers of cycling
every day.
Every day. Oh, perfect, man.
Commute, no?
Yeah.
Done. See, right? Chance per chance.
Brilliant.
Right?
Yeah.
Multiply that into 4 days a week.
Yeah.
We give you 100-kilometer mileage.
Right.
100-kilometer running, 100-kilometer cycling,
right.
or whatever that cycling is worth.
Right.
And you have your weekend if you want to do a long run, if you want to add a long run to that.
Yeah.
Right? So very automatically, I did this for like 8 weeks. Perfect. So for 8 weeks, I had like 100-kilometer mileage going on. So people ask me, how do you get time to train?
Yeah.
The amount of time that you spend, I would spend, say, and I did this very good exercise once when I was again in Wipro. for a week I tried to see which is that commute that works best for me. Okay, so very data driven.
Right.
So I said, okay, fine. So one day I took my bike.
All that management calculations.
All the calculations, right?
Yeah.
So I put nice graphs. It's a nice, good blog post. I can share that.
Yeah.
You know, it's quite interesting. Even today, I think it's relevant.
Yeah.
So I took 5 modes.
Yeah.
I called it 5 modes, 5 days or something.
Mm.
So first day was public transport. So I took the bus, pathetic, some 3 hours something.
Right.
Then I took my car, which was also okay one way, not okay the other way, etc. Then my motorcycle, I have a bullet.
Right.
So that back and forth again, you know, was not so this one. Then cycle,
Uh-huh.
and then run. So I did all of this. So one day I ran in the morning and then ran back in the evening.
Right.
So did all of this, and then I put some metrics there saying what is your workability in terms of saying how tired you are, you know, how much time you need for shower, etc. Put all of that together to give it a score.
Right.
And the score that won was cycle, hands down.
Okay.
There's nothing else that can beat cycling.
Okay.
Right?
Good.
So yeah, absolutely right. So I stuck with cycling for most of my commute. But I used to do this. So people ask me, so, you know, how do you get time? And I used to tell them, how much time do you spend on commute? 2.5 hours.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, that's your time.
That's your time. Yeah.
Right?
Beautiful.
For me, that whole running and all of this would take me, you know, that cycling 13 kilometers is like 45 minutes.
Right.
And then running that distance is another hour. An hour and 45 minutes is not insane in Bangalore's traffic to go 25 kilometers.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
A little here and there.
Yeah,
I think that much, you know, you can sacrifice. So I used to do that. Yeah, I mean, if you really want to do it,
right, you'll find a way.
You'll find a way to do it.
Right.
You know, there's, you know,
so
and the stars will align.
Yeah, that's how you kind of use the commute to train for. And
then you know, like I said earlier, you know, I started working from home after a bit, so that gave me, you know, much more options.
Time. Yeah.
One of the things when I was training again for another 100K, one of the things that I would do, and I told you that mornings used to be a little free for me.
Right.
What I would do is, and I had a young family. My wife, you know, needed support while she was trying to get back to her, get her career back on track as well.
Right.
So I had the responsibility to drop my daughter off to school, and near there was UAS campus with nice trails. Now you know what I'm thinking.
Right.
Her school was 2 hours.
Right.
Right, which is just enough time if I want to come back, you know, do something, then go back, pick her up, wait, hang on. Right, so I drop so I used to cycle. So my daughter used to be in the carrier behind. Drop her off to school, leave the cycle there, right? Go run in the campus, right? I used to do my 2-hour runs. I used to get my 20 kilometers there. Come back, freshen up, like just, you know, wash your face, just quickly change your shirt in one basement, you know, in an apartment nearby. Right. Just so that the teachers don't think that I'm on psycho, right? Right. I go and pick up my daughter. Right. That's about it, right? Yeah. Very silently do that 5 days a week, and you get a 100K mileage. Right. Awesome. You got to be looking for opportunities when you can do it. I also used to do these things called runch, which was run before lunch. Right. Run before lunch is what I used to name it. I used to get my second run. So in the morning I used to do my 6 to 7. I used to do one run. But I knew that, you know, that 12 to 1 is a little bit of a lean period. People don't miss you much work wise because that's somewhat lunchtime, etc. So 12 to 1 I used to do another hour, get another 10 kilometers in, come back, shower, have your lunch. Office had that showers. No, when I was working from home.
Okay. Yeah. Got it.
But you got to be smart. Right. With where you want to squeeze this in. Don't have mental boundaries that say, oh, I got to run at 6 o'clock. I got to run with a Garmin. I got to run with with other people from my club. I got to run this course. I can't run in traffic. I can't run in heat. None of that. Right. Break the boundaries.
You got to make it happen.
Yeah. If you really put your mind to it, the roads are open. Yeah. The trails are open. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Just go.
Absolutely.
Just get up. Get moving. That's it.
Absolutely.
That's it. I mean, like this. There is this book called Atomic Habits.
Right. Yeah. James Clear.
Yeah. Right. So he says, do it for 2 minutes every day. If you want to make a habit, just 2 minutes. It's ridiculous, right? What will I run for 2 minutes? But you do that over a period of time, then you'll start figuring out that initial problem of getting off and getting started is out.
Getting started is where the most resistance is, right?
Correct. Just get past that. And then, you know, now even on the most difficult runs, you know, I even now have butterflies in my stomach when I have to do interval training, right?
Of course,
And
all of us
tempos
do.
and all of that, right? No matter how many years of running you do,
Absolutely.
you're like, oh, really? Can I not? But then you get started, and then the muscle memory will take over.
Correct,
Right?
correct.
That's it.
You get to the start, get out of the door. For me, take
Yeah.
the bike and get out of the door.
That's it. After
Worry about the intervals later, and then once you are on the road, try the first interval and see how it goes. Second one, take it one at a time, one at a time.
Yeah. And then you'll finish and you're like, okay, what was that all about?
Yeah,
Before I started,
right? Right.
Yeah,
All
that's
that, this
Anxieties.
pain, that pain,
Yeah.
everything will go
Yeah.
off. Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh,
Exactly.
brilliant. So this is how you kind of trained for your ultra runs and
Yeah.
the 24-hour stories, madman.
Yeah, I know.
No, but you also represented India for the ultra 24-hour
Yeah.
event back in 2018 in
Yeah.
Taipei,
Yeah.
and came back with the bronze team
Yeah.
of 6. How was that? What was the event
See, I'll tell you-
format and how
Yeah.
was that experience?
Yeah. So you know, all the running that I had been doing until then,
Right.
was personal, was joy, was amateurish,
Mm.
all of that, right? I mean, it still is amateurish, but
Mm.
the point is that, so I mean, again, if I were to just take a little bit from my talks that I gave, I tell them that success is really the meeting point of opportunity and hard work.
Mm.
Okay. Opportunity, well, there was no, India was not represented in the, so there is this International Association of Ultra Running, which is the global body that governs and has mainly three events that happen. One is a 24-hour run, the other one is a 100-kilometer run, and then there are trail runs that happen, right, of varying distances, from 40 kilometers all the way to 100 kilometers. Now the thing is that although there was a body that was international, India's Athletic Federation of India was not a part of it. Was not affiliated, so we could not send teams, etc., right up to about 2017, 2016, I think. So there was no opportunity really, right?
Right.
But the thing is, I mean, maybe there was opportunity in elite marathoning, whatever. But anyway, the point is, for me, the hard work had started way back in 2005.
Yeah.
Right. And that graph just kept going up
Yeah.
to a point where this opportunity and this success met.
Right.
Opportunity and hard work met.
Right.
So without even having a bearing on where this is heading, right? You just
You
kept
kept
doing it.
working.
You
You
just
kept
doing
working.
it, right?
Yeah.
And suddenly the two curves met.
Right.
Now, I remember in 2016, I think, or 2017, very 2017, I think, I was training with one of my with Sunil Chalani, who was a veteran, who had run Comrades. We used to go to Nandi Hills to do intervals, up the hill
Right.
once in a while and all of that. So from one of those runs when we were coming back, he looked at me and he said, "You know what? Kairan has just got a chance to run with as an ultra for India." And he's representing India for in this Belfast or one of the events. And I was like, suddenly I had my goosebumps moment,
Yeah.
all the hair on my forearm just stood up like that. I mean, the it was so amazing. I said, is it even possible, right? And that kind of stuck in my head. And the next event that I did, I tried a 24-hour event after having tried 12-hour stadium runs. My first 24-hour run, I managed a 189 kilometers, which gave me the first position. And the qualification was 185 kilometers. I didn't know about it at that point. And then I made it to the Indian team. It was still a very close contest, but
Right.
the top 6 members were selected. I was one of them. And Venky, let me tell you this: there cannot be a greater feeling, in whatever amateur sports that we do,
Right.
than the feeling of representing the country.
Man.
It is simply, I can't put it in words.
Absolutely.
It is just beyond my my capability to kind of explain the pride that you feel, when you're walking with under the Indian flag. So there is a flag ceremony that happens, just one day before the event.
Right.
Where the athletes are walking with the flag bearer who goes and plants the flag for the country. And oh, it was unbelievable. And then of course that event was amazing. I mean, not personally for me, but then I sacrificed my own run to and then chipped in a bit, to support the team as we were pushing for the podium there. Thanks to Ullas Narayan, who did 250 kilometers in 24 hours that day,
Wow.
which is still the national record.
Wow.
He got an individual bronze, and also with that effort, with two others, Meena and Sunil Sharma, putting in 200 kilometers each, we were able to kind of get to the podium.
Right.
And that feeling,
Yeah.
when you're on the podium and the national flag goes up, is really amazing. Unbelievable. That is really a gift that running has given me, right? And that's the reason why I also want to kind of share my own stories, because running really truly has been magical to me. And if it were not for those great people that I met who had shared all their great stories with me,
Absolutely.
I don't think I would have stayed on for this long.
Right.
So it's all of this is in a way, my little way of kind of giving back to what running. I mean, and I don't even think I can do justice. Running has given me everything.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
So
Same, man. Same with me and cycling.
yeah,
That's why, and I know I had a story, and I know all of us have a story to tell. So I thought, why not use this platform to kind of,
No, I mean,
share those stories.
I told you before we
Right.
started talking that
Right.
I'm jealous of what you're doing. Right? Because
Thanks, man.
I mean, simply because of the kind of people that you get to meet, the kind of stories that you get to hear, and the kind of vibes that come out of
Absolutely.
of
See,
this.
because I myself, it is difficult for people to believe me when I say, because I have had this blog for a long time, and I write decently, all right, and I am an introvert. I don't interact with people that much.
Right.
Even my wife says, why don't you talk that much? And you don't even talk at home that much. You want to do a podcast and all that. Because this has given me a chance to be, because this is difficult for me.
Yeah.
Talking,
Yeah.
writing comes naturally for me
Right.
because I have been doing it for a long time. Talking is very difficult for me, and talking to people just like that is again very difficult for me because I'm basically an introvert.
Right.
But what this has given me is a chance to meet like-minded people and share their stories, and the focus is not on me.
Yeah.
And so I am able to do some sort of justice to
Absolutely.
their stories.
And
So that
it's
is
wonderful. It's really wonderful. I think these are the dots that really join when you look at it in hindsight.
right.
So I'm certain that and I hope really, and I same story with myself. I was not those. I'm definitely not those selfie and when you're running you just put a post and no. So I'm not that kind of a guy. But I maintained a blog so that people know what I'm doing.
Right.
So I said, instead of sending email to 10 people,
Yeah.
so let's use a platform where people can come and check me out once in a while.
Yeah.
So that blog that I maintained, which is called Visor View, Visor View was because I started it as a motorcycling blog. Visor as in the helmet visor.
Exactly.
So the Visor View, visorview.blogspot.com is the blog, which is all about my travel logs. That's how it started. But it then turned out that I started. The choice was, do I go on a motorcycle ride or do I do my running? Right?
Yeah.
Running.
Yeah.
Right? So I started picking, because motorcycle is just this, right?
Yeah.
So after a point, you have seen the places. There's nothing much to it. but with running, because whatever, right? So now it's gotten me to the national team. So
Right.
I can't be in a better place. But that's how the blog started. Today the blog is 200 posts, 220 posts plus.
Right.
And I try to just not make it like a simple log. I try to also pepper it with the feelings that I'm going through at that point. Try to make it slightly different in each. I wrote some poetry as well.
Yeah.
On the
Awesome.
blog.
Yeah.
Just some sonnets, just a 4-line
Right.
stuff once in a while.
Yeah.
I made a picture. What do you call it? The infographic kind of log ones.
Yeah.
But I try to kind of mix up
Yeah,
things,
this is
just to
the
bring some
yeah.
variety.
I mean, you keep doing it regularly enough, you end up looking back at those some
Yeah.
of those posts, and I
Yeah.
look. Some posts are like, is that me?
Yeah, exactly, right?
And
Yeah.
some are like, wow, is
Yeah.
that me?
Yeah,
Was
exactly.
that me? And
Exactly.
both
Exactly.
both
Yeah,
both things will
it
be
is.
there.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
It is more to me than to anyone else.
yeah, exactly.
I look into 10 years back, and I was like, that's a different me, right?
Right.
Yeah. And sometimes I used to wonder whether I really run to write or whether I write to run, right?
Right. Yeah.
So even
So
though
I remember riding like 20 kilometers and writing 2000 word blog. So
yeah, right. And even when I'm running, I'll be like, okay, this is a good thought. Maybe I should put it on a blog. Like, wait, let me just finish all this run before I start to writing. It's
right,
fun, yeah.
beautiful. So that was you represented India there in the Asian Oceanic uh, in Taipei in 2018 and came back with bronze. And lot of other even although you are in like ultra and stuff, uh, sh- I looked at your that timing post that you have it on the blog, the 5K in 19 and 10K in 39. Not a slow slouch at all, even for the shorter distances.
Yeah, I'm kind of a little bit of a odd ball there, because especially in India, the ultras is something that people pick up after they have kind of slowed down on marathons, right? So typically, right, they chase the marathon or the half marathon timing really with a lot of fervor, and then they say, oh, you know what, the speed thing is not working for me now. Let me do distance, right? But for me, it was not. It was not that. For me, well, of course, maybe no, not really. But the thing is that I always pick I tend to talk about this as like a riverbed with a lot of pebbles, right? Running, there's a lot of pebbles. You just have to pick one pebble, and you really can't say which pebble is better than the other, right? A 5K in 20 minutes, is also a great pebble, and a 180 kilometers in 24 hours also is a great pebble, right? Now, which pebble will you choose? So you got to be, little partial. Sometimes you pick one pebble and say, hey, I'm going to hold on to this for a while, and then when I don't like this pebble, I'll drop it and pick something else.
Right.
And this time it's a 12-hour pebble. Okay, fine, right?
Yeah.
So I tend to kind of mix and match my running, right? So even when I'm doing ultras, you don't get me wrong, I'm still training for pace, right? I'm still doing my tempos, I'm still doing my intervals. This is all learning that has come. I was running in
Because even for ultras, like for a 24-hour marathon, you still want to do as much as you can.
Yeah, well, that is one. See, here is my philosophy, and when you're in your optimum, see, slowing down too much will also add inefficiencies to your form.
Right.
You'll start slouching more. You'll start using your waist. You'll start landing. You're not bouncing off. You're spending too much time on the ground contact.
Right.
Your hips will start swaying a little more. You will build inefficiencies. So just slowing down does not mean that you can go longer.
Right.
The point is to be at your optimum pace. So that so you're
for whatever duration.
For whatever duration that you can.
Yeah.
Slowing is also slouching at some point. Whatever that slowing means for you, right? So optimum pace is what you got to keep. And if you're firing both your slow twitch and your fast twitch muscles, there's a good chance that that your form is accurate, and your oxygen efficiency, everything will work on an optimal condition. So one of the things that I used to do is I used to also when I was traveling, on work, I also used to do ultras there, right? Because marathons you can't sign up. So I used to sign up for ultras, and I used to go and do 50 kilometers, 60 kilometers, etc. So in one of those events, I happened to meet this guy called Long. Um, I forget his name, but I forget his first name. He was a part of the US Army, and he was training for 200-mile races.
Ooh, yes.
Competitive.
Yeah.
He was a competitive runner. Okay, and I tagged along with him.
200 miles is like 360 kilometers.
320 kilometers.
320 kilometers.
320 kilometer races.
Jesus, yeah.
In which
360 kilometers.
320 kilometers. In which after the first 200 kilometers is when they start getting competitive.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. Well, all of us
Just
will
imagine
just
that.
fall off. Yeah. Just imagine looking behind your shoulder after 200K when you have a hill to climb.
Yeah.
And then thinking, oh, that flow is giving me a chase now. If I attack this hill, I got a chance.
Right.
Imagine thinking that.
After
right?
200K.
I'm not sleeping. Huh?
Yeah.
200K would mean that they have not slept for 24 hours.
24 hours.
Right.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I Doug Long, Douglas Long was his name. So I managed to kind of stick along with him, for in Texas for when we were doing a ultra, and I got 4 hours out of him, and we were doing just what we were doing in the podcast. I started throwing questions at him, and he started, sharing his training and all of that with
as
me.
You ran.
Yeah, as we ran. And one of the things that he was telling me was look, the volume when you're doing an ultra, the volume of your training just goes up, which means that if you're doing your intervals for 10 kilometers, he does intervals for 20 kilometers, right? His intervals add up to that. His idea of a tempo run is 3 hours at a tempo pace. Whereas we would be thinking 1 hour, right? Yeah. So that is how it everything kind of stretches. So that morning he had done a 4-hour run. He had come and slept in his car, signed up for this ultra, and he was doing, 60 kilometer in the evening, just so he could get 100 kilometers that day.
Wow.
And therefore I was able to keep pace with him, by the way.
Right.
Otherwise, he would have been.
Yeah,
and after we had done 50 kilometers, he looked at me and said, and we passed the race leader. Okay, at that point, we passed the guy who was the race leader. I mean, very 25-year-old young guy.
Right.
He was struggling and suffering. So we passed him. He looked at me and said, do you want to win this now?
Yeah.
I said, boss, no, I mean, this is not my race. Let me just finish this. I said, okay. I mean, but that is how, some of the competitive guys think.
Right.
And therefore, ultras is not just about, not doing pace, right? So I keep my, this one with pace, but focuses more on distance and volume and all of that, back-to-back runs, long runs and stuff like that. I also tend to psych myself out when I'm doing this ultra training. I ran to Nandi Hills and came back last time. Right?
What? How much?
So I've actually done 2 Nandi Hills and back, which is 102 kilometers from my house back to Nandi Hills. That was last year. This year, during the just a few months back, I tried again, but they didn't allow me to run up because it was closed for Corona, and they said there are leopards there, and like, okay, I can't outrun the leopard.
Outrun the leopard, no,
So I just turned around and came back. But that day I did a 80 kilometer. I do, I kind of.
And so this 1 or 2 kilometers to Nandi and back, how long does it take?
Yeah, this took me 12 hours that day. 12 hours and 15 minutes, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
And I had someone who initially said he'll bike all the way kind of for support, but I was only able to get him because of a lot of punctures and things like that. So he had a pretty bad day. So he was able to support me for the last 30 kilometers. But otherwise it was this 80 kilometers that I did was completely on my own.
Right.
The first 100 that I did to Nandi and back, I kept some support. Then this time when I was planning, I figured
too much work.
Yeah. So let me just put on the camel back
and keep going.
And just keep going.
Yeah. So how, just curious, how do you manage nutrition on these like long runs and these 24-hour stuff? 24-hour stuff you have, you can pick up whatever. But
so I've been on, on that, that curve up and down. So, when I went to Taiwan to represent the country, I carried peanut butter and peanuts. Okay, Ullas looked at me and said, "Dude, you can't run the 24 hours on peanuts."
No.
Right. So I used to do some gels, but not much. Then I came back and tried a lot of gels in Delhi 2 weeks after I finished my Taiwan run because I had messed it up big time I wanted redemption.
Yeah, what happened there?
So what happened there was, so we started so unlike the Indian 24-hour runs, the run there starts at 9 a.m.
Okay.
Okay. So when it starts at 9 a.m., the sun, and in Taiwan is like, think of it like,
It's hot,
it's hot and
humid.
humid. Think
Yeah.
of it like Chennai. Okay?
Yeah.
So it's hot and humid. So we started at 9 a.m. with absolutely no cloud cover or no trees. It's a stadium, of course.
Right.
So 9 o'clock to 1 o'clock we all got fried.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And because it is you're representing the country, don't tell me that I got to go slow. Right?
Yeah.
We all have, our targets. So we're at least doing 10 kilometers an hour. I mean, I can't be sitting down and not doing any distance, right?
Yeah.
Because it is hot.
Yeah.
I mean, who does that?
Yeah.
So invariably in the first 4 hours, I mean, I think I should have been wiser and gone slow, to be
Slower.
honest.
Yeah.
But within the first 4 hours, I was cramping.
Mm.
And I was wearing my long leggings, I told you, the black color ones. Ulas told me, after point that, boss,
You will be.
yeah, you are inside, you're just cooked.
And also the black ones,
black.
they
It's
they,
black.
they absorb the heat and everything. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
And you could see that, after 3 hours, it had turned white. I had lost
With
so
all
much
the
salt. I had lost so much salt.
Wow.
And then I went in for stretching after 4 hours, which is, I never do that ever. Right? So I had started to struggle like really badly. And in I think 16 hours, I had done about 120 kilometers. I wasn't too happy about the way it was going. And I knew I can't do anything great.
Right.
So, and our team was really stretched. We had just a support crew, which was just 2 member, one physio and one manager. And then there was Ullas's father was there. There was some little support from there, but we certainly needed more support. We were 6 guys, 6 girls in the team. So then I decided, because I wasn't doing anything fun, I decided to just take a quick power nap and then join the support team. Right. So then I was helping them out with calculations in terms of saying, which team is chasing, and how what we need to do to push.
So how does it work for, say, team performance when you say a team got a bronze? So do they take the timings, the distance of the top 3 people from the thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that is how it is done. Sort of the 6-member team, the top 3 distances are added up, and that gives the team score.
Right. So out of 6 people, say they take the top 3 of the.
And we had about 4 runners who were running quite strong. So we had we had to just make sure that they're motivated enough, and they're supported enough.
Right.
Both medically, nutrition, hydration, all of that.
Yeah.
To get them moving.
Yeah.
Right. So that was how it panned out.
Yeah. So the teamwork, right? It's if you are not able to do well for whatever reasons on the track, you might as well support them in any other way you can.
That's right.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. So coming back to the nutrition stuff.
Yeah. So and then what I did was so because I needed to redeem myself.
Right.
Immediately after that run, I signed up for Delhi, which was Delhi 24 hours, which was happening 2 weeks later, just 2 weeks later.
Right.
So I flew back to Delhi. I took part in that one. I did 176 kilometers on that run. Again, I hadn't recovered fully enough, but regardless, I was pretty happy.
Right.
So there I was trying different nutrition also. But my personal best or personal worst pick, make your pick, was I think 22 gels in 24 hours.
Okay.
So every hour I used to gel up to a point where your lips will start hurting because of all that.
Side. Right.
Of that.
Yeah.
You lose taste. Because of all that stuff that's gone in, you lose your voice.
Lot of sugar, right?
Yeah, you can't speak. You can't speak too well. Your voice gets hoarse after all of that. So I've had but thankfully I could stomach it. So nutrition wise, that day I did mostly gels, but I used to also eat some banana and all of that.
With the gels, it kind of stayed stable.
It
stayed in, and you were able to do well on the run.
Yeah.
Okay.
So with some of these runs, I mean, of course, I don't do gels very often. So I was this guy who had gotten rid of gels. I don't, when I was training for, say, Malnad Ultra and all of that, I've done it on solid food only. Now that said, what do I do on these runs that I do on my own solo, camelback, etc.? I put in a gel or two. I put in a bar of chicky. I used to do this chapati rolls. The previous night, my wife's mandate was 10 chapatis. If I'm doing 100K, it's 10 chapatis.
Right.
Right.
One
So
per 10K.
One per 10K.
Right.
Right. And then my Camelback is 2 liters, so it's water up to a point is okay. So interestingly, let me just put this in perspective with what I used to do with my Nandi Hills. Okay, so Nandi Hills, I used to use it as a training run. I used to go to Nandi Hills, right, 51 kilometers from home, and then once I reached the top, I used to turn around and ask for a lift, and then get back home. So that used to be my schedule.
Right.
So I start at 3 a.m. Run up to Nandi Hills. 8 o'clock, I'm on top of Nandi Hills. And then I turn around, ask for a lift, and then come back by 10:30. I'm at home for the rest of my family.
Right. Around 8 is when we used to get to the top every Saturday.
And
I've seen you running up.
Exactly, right.
So we should probably collaborate and put a pannier on my bike or something and come back.
Look, let me tell you how it used to work. So I used to have this Camelback and chapati, like I said, with peanut butter or with jam, and things like that on the Camelback, and I used to do that. So at the Dodballapur, I go from Yelahanka and the Stonehill, that is the Padukond Center, that road, all the way to Dodballapur crossing.
That's a nice route.
Yeah, that road is like empty, no traffic.
Right.
And then cross the Dodballapur road and then continue on those village roads right to the Nandi base.
Correct.
Okay. Now, at that point where it crosses Dodballapur road, there it used to be about 6:15ish. So there are about 33 kilometers. There used to be a chai kada, a few chai shops.
Yes.
So I used to stop there, refill my water, buy bananas, eat chicky, and then continue from there.
Right.
So that used to be how I would plan this. Then after a point, I was like, wait, hang on, food, right? So if I put a gel here and if I put a chicky here, or maybe not even chicky, some nuts, right, in my pouch, that should be enough, right? So I don't need chapati. Okay, chapati went off. Okay. Then I was like, wait, water. Now, Yelahanka, that place, there is one chai shop that is open throughout the night, so I can get some water there. Then when I pass CRPF, I can get water with the security. Padukond Center, I can get water. That Dodballapur place, I have water. Nandi base, I can get water. Do I need the Camelback?
No.
Camelback off. Then, so I need cash, I need nuts.
Right.
Gel went off. Okay. Then cash, nuts, 2 pouches. Then after a while, t-shirt went off. I mean, I used to still wrap it around. The reason is, see, if I wear a t-shirt, it becomes fully wet.
Right.
Okay. Then when I'm doing my bike, when I do the lift and get some bike ride back, it really becomes cold. So I would just wrap the t-shirt around and run. The t-shirt stays dry. And then I used to use it. I very conveniently put it on, become like on full, and then ask for the lift. So that's how I started getting minimalist on some of these.
Nice.
Right.
Nice.
So now I don't think I need too much logistics. Just wake up at 3 a.m., which is now work-wise getting a little challenge, shutting down at 9 p.m. So I can wake up at 3. So it's a little bit of a dicey thing, but
correct. Yeah. Oh, awesome. Yeah, that's kind of, you figure out what works for you, and over a period of time optimize it, look to optimize it, and cut down this, cut down that, or include this or include that.
Right? See, that's the beauty of what works for you may not work. What works for you today may not work for you tomorrow, right? Therefore, what works for someone else, may definitely not work for you,
right?
So you got to kind of figure out what works for you. Now, how do you figure out is change one variable at a time, right? See if this works, and as we speak, you're going through this massive 72-hour fast, right? And all the best for that. Really, it's amazing. I have had my experiments with fasting as well, right? So what I try to do is, experience and then understand.
Right.
And if it works, keep it. If it doesn't, drop it. Right. I experimented with barefoot. Figured out maybe it doesn't work well for me. So dropped it.
Right.
I experiment with eating too much, eating too little, eating only carbs. Right. So a lot of these things are, not drinking at all, over drinking, cramping, heavily, either ways. Right. Still not figuring out how much to drink. Right. But yeah, I mean, the one thing that is constant is experimenting.
Right.
Like they say, change is constant.
Yeah.
Right. The experimenting is constant.
Right.
Keep trying.
Yeah.
Keep trying what works. If it works, stay with it.
Yeah.
Right. And then change something else.
Right.
Right. So that's how I'm toying with this. Now my current playbook is with peanut butter, no bread, just peanut butter and date syrup, right? As a go-to for for nutrition.
Okay.
Along with gels, I'm doing gels also. In my 24-hour run, which I bonked recently, I was having peanut butter and date syrup, both of which goes down very well with me. I love peanut butter. And then of course you have your gels to supplement as well.
Right. But still, you said you bonked. What did it kind of? No, was it not
Yeah.
enough, or how was
No, it's something got difficult to get down
Okay.
after a point, so I had to kind of puke it out.
Okay. So is it
Uh,
like
Yeah, it was
acidity generating,
not
or
acidity. So I think the peanut butter for some reason did not go down too well after
yeah,
a point.
it's a little bit sticky
Yeah,
and
yeah,
difficult to kind of gulp also,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
And maybe the energy drink or something that I was also having alongside.
So you need to figure out, take one out and maybe
Yeah.
experiment.
So I
And
was trying this this new thing called Huel, which is like a nutrition, like a meal, right? But it's powder. It's got all millets and flax seeds and everything in a powder, like your chapati
Flour.
No, it's like that, like the wheat flour, but with a lot of things. So that can be just mixed with water, and you can have it. It's called
Right.
HUEL.
Meal
Yeah,
replacement.
it's like a meal replacement. It's got all nutrition. So I was trying that. That didn't, after a point, it kind of stayed there. It didn't feel too good. So I
Right.
just, threw up and got rid of it.
Right. But you also mentioned something about doing a 50K fasted.
Yeah, so like I said, yeah, so I keep trying these things, and one of the things that I'm trying nowadays is fasting, intermittent fasting.
Intermittent fasting.
And my belief is that I think we are all wired to do the fasting and the feasting, right? Eat when you eat, eat to your fullest, and when you're fasting, give those long breaks. I've been trying on this intermittent fasting. My sister is a great example of that. She does some 22-hour fast every day.
So basically, it will
Just
be
one meal.
like one meal a day.
Just one meal a day kind of mode. And I've been experimenting, say, anywhere between 12 to 16 hour intermittent fasting almost every day. I do this Ekadashi fast where I push it from 24 to 30-hour fast. So one of those days when I was in Chennai, I decided to try to see. I mean, I keep playing with this hypothesis, right? And one of the hypotheses that I have is, see, with fasting, what happens is anything after 12 hours is when the body is completely depleted of carbohydrates, right? Which is when the fat pathways, the fat metabolism pathways need to open up. The keto pathways that are there need to fire in order to provide that energy.
Maybe people say after 18. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it could
Around
vary,
that,
right?
yeah.
It could vary. I mean, there's no exact science, but
Yeah.
I mean, there is probably exact science. But what I'm saying is that number can vary. But the point being that if your body is able to metabolize fat as a source of energy, then the fat is much more cleaner. It is much more efficient, right? It doesn't have byproducts, and it can last for much longer, right, than carbohydrates. Because from an efficiency perspective, I think there is something about how much ATP 1 gram of carbohydrate can provide versus how much one from fat. And on fat it is 6 times more, right? For the same
ATP
amount,
being the energy, molecule that is used to generate that.
it is used to power your muscles, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Which is consumed by your muscles in order to generate that force. Now with fat you're able to do that 6 times more with just the same amount of carbohydrates and fat. Fat is 6 times more, can give you 6 times more ATP than carbohydrates.
Interesting.
For the same amount of oxygen, right?
Okay.
So the byproduct that is there, is far lesser when you're in a fat burn mode. Okay. So therefore it is much more efficient. The only disadvantage, if there is any, from fat as a source of energy is that it is slow.
Right.
So I've tried this with intervals also. So I've gone on 12-hour fast and I'm trying to do my intervals. Sixth interval, seventh interval, you can feel that your stomach is like completely shrinking and is like begging you for nutrition. It's not coming. There's no nutrition, right? I mean, thankfully I haven't fainted or anything. But the thing is that it's not mental, it is physical. You can actually feel that. I've tried it. But with your slow long runs, you can keep going. It's just blissful, right? Because you don't have, that's one less thing to worry about, right? So now the thing is that and therefore I believe that, like we were discussing just a while back, see, when you're in your fastest state and you're telling your body, I need energy, and you're also telling your body, I'm not giving you carbohydrates, where does the body go? It goes into your fat, right? And then you're forcing your body to burn that fat and provide that energy. Now once that pathway is activated and there is energy that is provided, even if you stop your physical activity, you would still be able to continue. That energy source is still there, which means you're tapping into that energy and you can go on for much longer. The other thing that also happens is there are a lot of hormone balances that are there in your body that kind of trigger hunger, right? Which trigger hunger, which gives those messages. There is apparently a brain in your gut, right? Because of all of our mindless eating, we have made that that mind sleep, go off to sleep. You don't hear signals from your stomach anymore. Hunger, like any other feeling, is a feeling. It'll pass, right? Now the thing is that for all of this, when you do your physical activity, the hormonal balance, it's beautiful, right? If you thinking fast, thinking slow, there are a whole lot of books. Spark, if you have read the book called Spark, right? That book talks about how the hormonal balances in your brain is modulated to that precise balance when you're doing physical activity. Try to ape that with any kind of steroids or drugs or whatever you give. You can never get to that balance, because there's always something that's more, right? But when physical activity is there, the body has a way of regulating it. That's the exact same thing that works when you're fasting as well. You give a slow, aerobic kind of a, not very slow, what I mean is aerobic, right? Don't go into intervals, right? Keep it honest. Now when you're doing that, your hormones are also regulated to an extent that your hunger is also kind of taken care of. So both these things, I think, work very well. So I was trying to hypothesize this, which meant that I went once on a 30-hour fast, and then I was in Chennai and got up at 3 a.m. without having eaten anything, and then decided, I had this planned, of course, and then I said I'll do a 50K run. So I started out doing a 50K run without eating anything, with just 2 liters of water in my camel bag in Chennai, running on a route that I was not very familiar with, but one big loop. And I and I didn't feel the need to eat, which is, see, it is not just I didn't feel the need.
Our bodies have enough fat to burn.
It has.
Especially if you're not doing intensity, as you said. If you are going slow, aerobic state, it can dig into that. Those reserves.
So my personal best is a 30-hour fast and a 50K run. And then I got back home not having, not feeling this great urge to eat, to go on, where's the food, where is food? No, I happily, had my shower, I did a little prayer, and then I had my breakfast, broke my fast. So
awesome.
It was
Awesome.
magical,
So that kind of gives me confidence to try and ride fasted as well, because the
best that someone has done on a fasted state?
No.
So the best is, this guy tried a 100-mile run on empty after having not eaten anything. So 100 miles in 17 hours is what he did, from one city to the other, just on water.
Wow. And how long did he fast before?
I think it was
overnight.
Overnight
fast
before he did that. So it was a carb depleted state, not eating anything.
And wake up
17
and
hours.
17 hours. 100 miles, 17 hours. 100 miles is 160 kilometers.
160 kilometers in 17 hours, and which itself by itself is a super achievement.
Right.
And he did it in some road between two cities, right? So he ran from city A to city B in the US somewhere. So
wow.
So it is possible. It's, you just have to expand your mind.
Right. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah.
Go for that ride tomorrow.
Let me see. Yeah. I was, instead of yoga, I would go for
probably
yoga.
That's right. I'm sure it'll help.
Sure. Awesome, man. This has been fantastic chat. To kind of conclude this, what are some of the tips you would give working athletes to do well at sport and
Right. So if there was just this one advice, if I were to give, right, and the advice would be keep a balance, right? So there's no point in being obsessed about one thing or the other, right? Whatever it is, even a good baggage is a baggage at the end of the day, right? Don't carry any baggage, right? So what I mean is that so very beautifully someone, I was chatting with someone in the US once when I was on work, and very beautifully she said this 4 burner theory, right? She said life is like, you have these 4 burners. One is your passion, one is your work, one is your family, one is your friends. Not all burners, and these are gas burners, right? So not all burners can fire at the same time, right? So you got to kind of sim one at some point so that the other can burn brightly, right? Now think of your life like that. You just can't have it all, right? If you have it all, then you're burning both ways, both sides, and we don't want a burnout happening, right? So, and someone else also said, in an article where I was reading, they said stress, any stress is stress. It could be a training stress, right? If you're an athlete, it could be a work stress, when you're a working athlete, it could be any of those stresses, right? So look at it in that sense, right? All of that is stress, right? So it's just not the training stress, right? So look at it in that total sense, and then figure out, where the, therefore, if your work is demanding you to sit until 11 o'clock and you cannot get up at 5 a.m. and feel rested, right? Rest. Right? Don't burn it both ways. You will always find a time, use your imagination, right? You will always find time to do your 10K run. You don't have to do it at 5 a.m. every morning.
Absolutely.
Right? So, and you don't have to necessarily do it all days a week. So there was someone, a British 64-year-old who's still kicking ass on the veteran masters category. He was 30 years of running career, and he says the exact same thing. He says, use that, on some weeks you're only, in some years, you're only able to do 3 days a week of your running. Right. Sometimes you can do 6 days a week. Now he is training for a fast 10K or something, and he's training 100 kilometers a week at 64 years old, 100 kilometers a week, and he's running 6 days a week. Okay. Now it's possible to do all of that, so long as you're able to keep that longevity going. So the point is, every stress adds up. So make sure that, your running does not add to a stress. Allow it to, to kind of de-stress you.
De-stress you, yeah.
So that would be my advice. Look at it in the, holistically.
Right.
There is family. There is you have to get your family into this, into your goal setting. There are demands from family that you'll have to cater to, but have, that whole, holistic view. So that would be my,
brilliant, man. This has been a fantastic chat. I really enjoyed it. I would love to have you back on the podcast to share more of your insights into running and life in general. But thanks again for taking the time and coming on to the show.
Thank you, Venky. Like I said, this is indeed an honor and pleasure for me. And I hope it helps your listeners
absolutely
to set their own goals and go after them.
Absolutely, I'm sure it does. And for the guys listening, you can check out the blog Manoj has. He has a fantastic blog. I will link that in the show notes. And those who are looking to for help with running and stuff can reach out to him. He's very down to earth, very communicative, as you can see from the podcast. You can reach out for any advice or help with running. And
I have a Instagram with a handle at Ultra Bhat. Ultra is what I do, and Bhat is my surname, Bhat.
Yep. So we'll link that also in the show notes, so that people can get in touch and subscribe to the channel and the podcast wherever you get your podcast, or on YouTube. And you can leave the comments on YouTube what you thought about our little interaction here. If you have any suggestions for the guests as well, you can leave a comment on the YouTube in the comments. Thank you.
Super. Thanks so much.